Food for Thought with Professor David Dete.
A very good morning to you. This is Food for Thought with Professor Ndete. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, last week, we kicked off a series talking about schizophrenia. And boy, oh boy, that information was very, very valuable. But we didn't quite finish as we were talking about the different types of hallucinations. We want to pick up that discussion from where we left off last week. I remember having a conversation on one of my radio shows, and there's a lady who had actually texted in with exactly what you're saying. And she was saying, I don't know what to do with my husband because he constantly keeps saying that I'm trying to kill him. You know, when I cook food for him, he doesn't want to eat. He says it tastes funny, that I'm trying to kill him. When he's in the house, he says there's a funny smell. We have poisoned the air. So he doesn't eat in the house. Anakulaga huko nje kwa hoteli. It's just chaotic. Exactly what you're saying.
Absolutely. I didn't know about that story, but I see it a lot all the time.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Another one, I've talked about very briefly about hearing, seeing, taste, and smell. The other thing, and I see that there could be young people listening to this, but let me say it because it's very common indeed. There's another, we talked about somatic hallucination. That is sensory hallucination. We call it somatic hallucinations. The commonest of these is when people, and it's very common in women, they feel that they are being sexually assaulted.
Wow.
Okay, and they will behave in very interesting manner. Unfortunately or fortunately, it tends to occur in much later age, more often in women. I see it more in women. As it can occur in women, but very rare. I think I've only seen one case where I was trained in UK and in this country. And this is the way they present. You know, if you are talking about Ashu and grandmother, and this issue of sexual assault is happening, they are very conservative.
Yeah.
So they will not talk about it. It goes for a long, long time. And the only people who might be assaulting them is the people who are living with them in the house. They could be visitors, could be immediate neighbors, could even be their children. It could even be their grandchildren. And in their mind, they are saying, how can my children, how can my children, how can my neighbors do such a terrible thing to me? And they feel it. So if it is in the case of, again, an explanatory model, it is, they have no other explanation. This may be the Martinis who are doing this, and they go for demons to be cast out. But it's a medical problem.
I'm just wondering, when we talk about somebody being mad and somebody having lost their mind, is it the same thing we are talking about, only with a different name?
Well, as I said earlier on, there are different kinds of mental disorders. You are talking about schizophrenia. And if people are hearing voices and seeing things that other people are not seeing and things like that, and because of what they are going through, they start being very aggressive, isolated, and things like that, we say they are mad. In my view, madness is a terrible terrible name. Don't call people. The assumption is that you are assuming that they are pretending they are hearing voices that are not there.
Yeah.
It is not true that they are hearing voices, because you can say there are no people who are talking. They know that they are no people there. Therefore, they cannot possibly be hearing voices. That's true. They hear those voices crystal clear. It's because of disease of the mind. It is an illness like any other illness. That is a starting point. And if you take that kind of approach. And I think somebody somewhere will appreciate that I keep on talking about the family. I keep on talking about the close people.
Yes.
The management of people with these conditions. The family is probably even more important than the patient themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Many families have problems with this because they do not understand what is going on. And even when they take these patients to, say, Madari Hospital,
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that kind of institution, I had the privilege of teaching at Madari Hospital for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was as junior medical doctor, we started not just giving patients medicines. In fact, that was a time when we didn't even have any medicines.
Mm-hmm.
We started talking to the patients. Do you know what the patient told us?
Yeah.
They told us, people, when we go out there, they're just mad. They just leave us alone. They start shouting at us. They don't talk to us normally. They talk to us with loud voice.
Mm-hmm.
They criticize everything that we do. It's like we are just Madari case, and therefore we can never be right in everything, in anything, everything and anything. We cannot be right because the community there is very hostile.
Yeah.
Then when we brought in the families, we asked them a very simple question. What's the matter with your patient? They say, we don't know, just mad. Anything else, just mad. And when you start explaining to them what I have just been telling you,
yes,
making them understand the symptoms of the illness, what is happening in the brain, if they are on medicines, do you understand why we are giving you this kind of medicine?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how the medicine should be taken? Let me tell you what happened. It was amazing.
Mm.
In a span of about 6 months, we reduced the population of that ward when I took over from 200
mm-hmm.
to 30.
Wow.
What I'm trying to say is involvement of the parents and the families is very, very important.
Okay.
What is happening in UK is what is happening in America. And because of that approach, and hear me very well, and very, they are closing mental health, psychiatric hospitals.
Wow.
They are closing them.
Mm-hmm.
In America, in New York, one of the biggest mental hospitals has been closed because they are taking that kind of approach. And these patients can be managed in their homes very effectively because everybody understands what is happening. The relatives are involved. It reduces the cost of being in hospital. I'm not saying there's no place for hospitals.
Yeah.
Very limited. So they're in hospital for a very short time and they go home and they continue taking the medicine. So when I hear people saying we should be building psychiatric hospitals, very sad indeed. We are going against the grain. When people out there are closing hospitals, we are building psychiatric hospital. I am not, what they are taking mental health into the communities. Before I forget, it's been shown that people with the schizophrenic illness tend to die much earlier than people without schizophrenic illness. And what do they die of? They die of physical conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and things like that. Because just seeing people as psychiatric patients, and you forget that these are also human beings who are subject to these other conditions.
Yeah.
Who are managed in a general hospital like other hospitals. So many hospitals, and I'm not going to name hospitals in Nairobi, who manage these patients with this very severe psychiatric illness. All they have is what is called an isolation room.
Yes.
Where one in a while, 1 or 2 patients may require that kind of care in a general hospital. That is the direction we should be moving. That's what the world is moving.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for being a part of Food for Thought with Professor Ndete. Once again, I pray that the information we are giving you is helping you gain a deeper understanding on mental health issues. If you have a family member who's going through mental health issues, don't dismiss them. Connect them to find the help that they need, because help is easily available and these conditions can be managed. Have yourselves a great weekend. We'll catch up again next week on Food for Thought. God bless you.